Welcome back, everyone. Some polemicists against Islam insist on referring to Muhammad as a caravan robber. They accuse him of lying in wait to pillage the possessions of others, even people from his own tribe. Are these accusations accurate? Muslim apologists, for their part, have their defenses. Here's Sheikh Khalid Yassin.
The Quraysh were criminals. The Quraysh were murderers. The Quraysh was already committing heinous crimes against the believers. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He inspired the Prophet ﷺ with a dream and with revelation that the Quraysh was moving some of their most precious commodities from one place to the other. So if my enemy, while I was with them, drove me out, while I was with them, killed some of my followers, plotted on my life, and now I'm in a place where I got my own spot and I catch my enemies in between with their commodities. Now, is that called robbing, or is that a strategy of war?
Robbery or war, he asks. Well, since those are our only two choices, and the Muslim sources do not portray Muhammad as even being close to anything that you could call war at this point in his career, then by Sheikh Yassin's own logic, it's robbery. And here's everybody's favorite, Yasir Qadhi.
The Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba never attacked caravans unconditionally. They attacked the Quraysh. And there's a big difference. There's a big difference to say that he used to attack caravans all over Arabia and he used to attack the Quraysh. The Quraysh, yes, definitely. The Sahaba would definitely find out where they're heading and attack their caravans. Why? Because of 13 years of oppression, because of being expelled from their own countries and lands, because of confiscating their property. The Quraysh expelled the Muslims, took over all their money. The Sahaba had no money when they left for Medina, the Muhajirun.
What these responses both have in common is the idea that Qadhi explicitly stated at the end of his idiotic blabbering. These people wronged us, we have the right to do this back to them.
These people wronged us, we have the right to do this back to them.
What Qadhi just stated is a recipe for perpetual crime and violence. By contrast, a recipe for stopping a cycle of violence is found in Jesus' words, which are directly opposed to the sentiments of Yasir Qadhi and his prophet. Jesus said, "Love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. If someone slaps you on one cheek, turn to them the other also. If someone takes your coat, do not withhold your shirt from them." Now let me throw a curveball at you. Listen to these quotes from the Satanic Bible. "Hate your enemies with a whole heart, and if a man smite you on one cheek, smash him on the other." And again, a Satanist practices the motto, "If a man smite thee on one cheek, smash him on the other." Now recall Qadhi's words, "These people wronged us. We have the right to do this back to them." Now, I'm not saying Qadhi is a Satanist per se, but when Muslim apologists' defense of their prophet puts them more in line with the ethics of the Satanic Bible than the Bible itself, you might have a problem. But then again, I guess not much has changed. Muhammad inadvertently recited Satanic verses. Muslim apologists inadvertently recite the Satanic Bible. But back to our original question. Was Muhammad a caravan robber? In this video, we're going to briefly survey 8 of Muhammad's early raids and incursions with the help of the most scholarly treatment of Muhammad's wars to date, a new monograph called Muhammad's Military Expeditions, a critical reading in original Muslim sources, written by Professor Ayman Ibrahim. These campaigns occurred within 2 years after Hijrah, but before the Battle of Badr, which took place in 624. Professor Ibrahim's interest in these accounts is from a religious history perspective primarily, since he's highly skeptical of the reliability of Muslim historiography. For our purposes, I want to outline these campaigns so that we can have a better understanding of how Muslim historians portrayed Muhammad's early career in Medina. What you see here is adapted from Chapter 2 of Ibrahim's book. 4 incursions are named after the commanders Muhammad selected, and 4 raids were led by Muhammad himself. Here they are summarized in chronological order. First, there's the incursion of Hamza ibn Abd al-Muttalib. That occurred in Ramadan in the 9th month of the first lunar year after Hijrah, March 623. Muhammad sent him to intercept a caravan traveling from Greater Syria to Mecca. There were about 30 Muslims to 300 Meccans, and they were led by Abu Jahl, who viciously opposed Muhammad. His real name was supposedly Amr ibn Hisham. But a mediator was there who was a friend of both sides, and he intervened and prevented a fight. Apparently this was not an uncommon practice between Arab tribes at the time. Then there was the incursion of Ubaydah ibn al-Harith. That occurred in the 10th month of the first lunar year after Hijrah. That's about April 623. Muhammad sent him to intercept another caravan. The odds were roughly 60 Muslims to 200 pagans. It was basically a skirmish with injuries but no deaths, and amounted effectively to a show of force from the Muslims. And it did highlight the bravery and skill of a warrior called Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. And so the next incursion was named after him. It occurred in the 11th month of the first lunar year, that's about May 623, targeted a caravan of the Quraysh, and it was about 20 Muslim soldiers who went to a location specified by Muhammad. However, the Meccan caravan had left the place a day early, so Sa'd and his men pursued to the limits established by Muhammad and then turned back. Next, Muhammad led a raid on Al-Abwa, and that occurred 3 months after Sa'd's incursion, targeted another Quraysh caravan, did not find the caravan, but instead made an alliance with another tribe. Then Muhammad led a raid on Buwat. It occurred 2 months after Al-Abwa, targeted a wealthy Quraysh caravan. There were about 100 enemy Quraysh present. The Quraysh apparently thwarted the attack, but the Muslim sources are ambiguous on the outcome. Next was Muhammad's raid on Kurz ibn Jabir al-Fihri. This is also called First Badr, or the Raid of Safwan. It occurred the same month as the Al-Abwa raid, and it was more or less punitive against Kurz for a livestock dispute. Kurz was not captured. It's a rather anticlimactic event. Next was Muhammad's raid at Al-Ushayra. This occurred 3 months later, and it targeted another large caravan traveling between Mecca and Greater Syria. Somewhere around 150 to 200 Muslims waited a month, and the caravan never showed. Muhammad made a treaty with another Arab tribe, but he did catch up with that caravan and robbed it later. That's the Battle of Badr. And finally, to the fourth incursion, led not by Muhammad, but by one of his commanders. In this case, it was Abdullah ibn Jahash at Nakhla. It occurred 1 month after the raid of Al-Ushayra, 17 months after Hijrah. There were 8, 12, or 13 Muslim soldiers, depending on the source you read. The caravan was seized. Muslims killed Meccans, and this was during one of the sacred months. Muhammad was mad his men violated the sacred month, but then Allah revealed Surah 2:17 and said it was fine. So here we are, less than 2 years from Hijrah, before the Battle of Badr in 624. That's not a long period of time. We have a total of 8 campaigns of various severity, classified by Muslim historians as incursions or raids. 4 were led by Muhammad and 4 by his commanders. All except 1 had the stated goal of caravan robbery. Further, when we get to the battles of Badr and Uhud later on, what do we have? That's right, more caravan robbery. So, back to our original question. Why do some polemicists against Islam refer to Muhammad as a caravan robber? Because, as it turns out, he was a caravan robber, according to Muslim sources. And here, again, we see several differences between the Muhammad portrayed in the Muslim sources and the Muhammad portrayed in Muslim apologetics. Professor Ibrahim comments, classical Muslim historians, unlike today's scholars, did not seem to object to this depiction of Muhammad as a war initiator. After all, the Muslim military incursions are often depicted in historiographical accounts as a continuation of the tribal custom of fights to seize possessions, secure spoils, and defeat enemies. In a related comment, he says, while some may seek to depict the Muslim raids as different from the common raiding practices among 7th century Arabs, the Muslim sources do not support such a claim. Classical Muslim historians do not shy away from depicting Muhammad as a highwayman who seeks to intercept caravans and seize their possessions. Addressing another popular Muslim claim, he continues, contrary to modern Muslim apologetic claims that all Muslim raids were launched in self-defense, this narrative, in this case he's referring specifically to the incursion of Ubaidah, indicates otherwise. But wasn't Muhammad just spreading Islam? Contrary to traditional Muslim arguments, the reports of these early incursions do not state that any proclamation of Islam took place. While traditional interpretations advanced by some Muslim scholars tend to depict the military incursions as aiming to proclaim Islam to non-believers, this is not supported by textual evidence we possess. So I have a novel suggestion for Muslim apologists when people point out that Muhammad's moral and ethical judgment was seriously compromised, resulting in, among other things, a caravan robbery addiction that, even more problematically, Allah approved of. All Muslim apologists need to do is point to the many occasions where Muhammad or his men, under his direction, failed to seize their intended caravan. So many times those slippery Quraysh eluded them. So yes, admit that Muhammad attempted to rob caravans, a lot of caravans. But on the positive side, while he was a caravan robber, he wasn't very good at it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.